What's up, it's your boy Trey Retro _GT back from another episode of the G.Taylor Show. And this episode has probably been a few months into the making. It's been a lot of back and forth online about this conversation, which I'm late to the party, but hey, I had to finish my own degree. As you know, well, let's go back. Like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, the G.Taylor Show. We rolled to 1,000 subscribers, and we are trying to also inform, educate, and give some content to what the space of social work looks like, what you can do in social work, in reference to your LCSW versus DSW, DSW Ph.D., present some of my research and passions and interests around Black male mental health, rural mental health, the education and academia side of social work, and then also lifestyle hobbies, curating those different topics related to the work that we do. This is the G.Taylor Show, and I'm so glad that you are here with me. Again, my name is Dr. Gary Trey Taylor, licensed clinical social worker. And listen, there was a lot of discourse. There was a lot of discourse on my channel, on my side of social media, which is the academic side of social media, and also the social work side of social media, around the reference of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, her degree credentials, institutions that are accredited, not accredited, all these good stuff, right? I wanted to jump in the ring and have these conversations, but I just didn't have the time, effort, or energy to engage with it. And a lot of y'all was already doing a wonderful job at it, so y'all didn't need to hear from me at that moment. Now, what I wanted to do for this episode is I really wanted to talk about, the conversation about DSW versus Ph.D. And at some point during the summertime, or maybe later on, and I can't keep saying that. I don't know what my schedule is going to keep looking like. But I'm going to interview somebody that got their PhD recently. And I have a few colleagues who just got their PhD. I know a few folks, community, a lot of folks who have PhDs. We're going to have a conversation at some point around DSW versus PhD. And you'll get a full recap. You'll get a full understanding of the approaches, the content, the courses, the dissertation versus capstone, you name it. Now, also please understand that for DSW, folks' capstones projects look different depending on the university. So you have to take that into consideration as well. But I'm here to talk about the difference between DSW and PhD from my perspective as a DSW graduate, and why I chose DSW over PhD. I received a lot of questions over the last 2 years about going to get my doctorate degree, why did I go get it, why I didn't go PhD. But a lot of questions were leaning to like, why DSW, why do you need it now, right? And so I hinted at it initially, why I went and got my degree, my DSW degree. I've talked about it prior in fewer episodes, so go look those up as well if you want a little bit more context. But for me, I've always wanted my doctorate degree in some form or fashion. I looked into PhD programs, looked into DSW programs. It wasn't until recently, probably the last few years, where I, built community with DSW graduates, that I started looking into the DSW degree. But I had friends who were also PhDs as well, and I thought about going to PhD route, especially at my old university, my alma mater at VCU. And, the thing for me for PhD at this moment, in my career, but also in my current personal life, was I didn't feel like I could commit to 4 to 5 years, maybe 4 to 6 years of schooling at this point in my life and career. I have, a wife, I have children, I have family. My children are, one is 9, one is 4, and they are starting to get super busy, especially my oldest. And my youngest is getting ready to start, grade school here soon. So I wanted to be able to knock these things out before they start to get busy. Because I know for me that when my children start to get busy, when my family starts to get busy, I'm going to prioritize family over my studies first. And the fact of the matter is that I didn't per se need the degree. Now, the difference for me, again, one was timeline, right? I told you about that. Most DSW programs are 2 to 3 years. Most of your PhD programs are anywhere between 4 to 6 years. PhD is preparing you for more research and teaching, right? If you want to do research or if you want to teach. If you want to do DSW, that's more of a practicing degree. meaning that you will enhance, be like more clinical directors, program managers. You can do research with your DSW, and you can teach with your DSW at the academic level as well. But it's more of a practicing degree, per se. Think about it in the aspect of the LCSW as the licensed clinical piece of being a social worker. That end all be all, what a doctorate of social work kind of captures all that in one, as the practicing formality for your social work degree. Now, if you are looking to create new knowledge, enhance on research, create new research, things like that, the PhD is the route where you would do that. And that would entail you to practice research, do research, engage in research at higher academic levels in different institutions, and then also preparing you to teach at the actual academic higher education level as well. The DSW prepares you to teach as well, because we had tracks on social work education and teaching and things of that nature as well too. So this really all depends about your career trajectory and where you're trying to go in your career. Are you looking to be a researcher, create new knowledge, and challenge already challenge some already existing knowledge and interventions, or you wanting to add to that? Do you want to do that, or are you looking for an opportunity to kind of I would say combine all your experience, all of your practicing experiences as a social worker together as one to have your DSW? Now, mind you, you talk to DSWs and PhDs. DSW was the premier doctorate degree prior, I want to say probably like in the 80s, 70s, prior to when it shifted over to more of a research-based profession in that sense, from that aspect. For the PhD level. And so that's where the PhD in social work started to come in, which started push more to that side for the research side and also teaching side as well. So so that's where you kind of got to understand the history, but also, where you're trying to go in your own career. And so I think both of them are beneficial. I think both of them are needed, but it depends on what you're seeking to do with your career and where you're at in your career. You have to ask yourselves, do I need this doctorate degree to continue to function and to properly execute the work that I've already been doing? Is that accurate, right? Can I say that accurately with some type of confidence? And I'm gonna go ahead and charge my port up because my camera is dying. Everything is dying today. Let's see. All right. Give me a charge. It doesn't want to give me a charge. All right, we come back. So, back and forth to what we're talking about. So, does this doctorate degree enhance me more in my career than where I'm at today, right? Because a lot of times folks are thinking, okay, well, if I go get my DSW PhD, that means more money. Now, that's not always the case. So you have to research that and figure that out. For us, our terminal degree is the MSW. And for most states, once you get your LCSW or you get a licensed independent social work degree, then you are able to practice social work independently. The thing about the DSW, though, for me, was that I was able to, it allowed me to open up a few more doors that I couldn't unlock from the LCSW. One thing that I've noticed so far is that because I have the LCSW and because of most of my experience has been micro or clinical based experience, my resume CV reads very much clinical, very clinical heavy experience, very clinical heavy CV. Now, when I'm adding the facilitation of the workshops and things of that to the CV and things of that nature, it kind of expands my territory. And so as I started to learn that, if you want to be a clinician, if you want to strictly be clinical for most of your career, or at least part of it, then you don't need the DSW or PhD. The clinical aspect is all you need from the LCSW side. You start supervising, you're good to go. But if you think about going into a program manager, clinical director roles. Now, even though clinical director roles, still LCSW is fine, because if you're, you know, your clinical skills are on point, you've managed some people here and there, or supervising some people, you got the clinical designation to supervise people clinically, you're already primed for clinical director roles. You feel what I'm saying? At this point, is it a good fit, and how long have you been doing it for? Right? When you start talking about running a system or running an organization, running a program, then that's where I think, if you wanted to get into that aspect, that's where I think the DSW kind of sets you apart and puts you up there from other folks. And that's where, if you want to get into that aspect, or if you're looking at program management, building a program, running a program, then that's where the DSW can really help you grow and excel on, based upon all your skills already. We did a lot of conversations about almost pretty much running a nonprofit, building a nonprofit, or working in human service organizations. We talked a lot about that in class. We had to build one out, in a sense, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of what we've created is working off of, based off of primary interventions that have already been done, or adding and creating new ones. So, that's where I think, if you start talking about program management, running a program, creating a program, building off of something, where I think the DSW really thrives at, right? And you get into the aspect of being an authority or the subject matter expert on a certain topic, let's say your clinical experience, right? Then you become that subject matter expert based upon that doctorate. And that leads to consulting efforts, public speaking, keynotes, speaking opportunities, workshops, facilitating, things like that, that can take you outside of just doing clinical based work. And now you can do a little bit of mixing it up, where you're doing a little bit of clinical based work, you're doing a little community based work, a little bit of workshops and speaking, you name it, things like that, that can, blend it to the two, right? So that's where the DSW, positions you. DSW also helps you in the realm of, if you want to teach at a higher level, you can teach at, here's the thing, y'all can teach in academia with the LCSW and with the MSW. Typically, most programs, once you have MSW post 2 years, with to be able to teach. But you can teach at the BSW level, and then you can teach at the MSW level as well if you have to post 2 years. So it's just about, experience in that actual department, if they, want to bring you on. But having the LCSW also positions you to also teach at the academic level as well. Now, when you start talking about directors, deans, or program coordinators, or things like that, then yeah, a lot of times academia wants to see that that doctorate degree, that Ph.D. degree, in order to get to that element. So for me, I wanted to leave that door open, right? If I had the opportunity to become a director or a dean, that I'm already qualified based upon my credentials and my experience to be able to, lead that program, or direct that program in that manner, or be the coordinator for that program. Now, mind you, I was already teaching 2 years, maybe 2 years in already at an academic level. And I had already, the year before I'm finishing my last 2 years, I took on the option of being a program coordinator for the MSW program. So I'm not in the director role, but I'm in a leadership role already. The DSW kind of just helps cement that. So if that's a goal of yours, to get in academia to teach in that level, and thinking about, leadership role in academia, that's another opportunity where the DSW can kind of help put you above where you need to be. And yeah, and then, obviously the last piece is also state and federal policy, access, working in federal or state government, or contracting and consulting with them, that, with your expertise or experience. Then also the doctoral designation or doctorate designation, that also positions you as a subject matter expert, kind of going back to the public speaking and facilitating of, the work and your research and things of that nature, that it positions you. So for me, as I'm doing this Black men's mental health thing, and then I'm expanding to the Rural Mental Health Authority, hopefully my goal is to help consult with human service organizations within rural areas to address some of these disparities related to mental health, but also related to Black men in these areas, right? And so I can lean on my clinical experience, but I can also I can lean on my lived experience, my clinical experience, and also my research. So now it's threefold that I'm speaking from different areas that I can speak to the lived experience of a Black man in a rural area and how access to mental health care is sparse. I can speak to how that looked for my clients when I work with them in actual clinical settings, whether that was private practice, inpatient, or community-based work, right? And then I can also speak to what the research and the literature is saying in that aspect, because I've done the proposals, I've done the research, I've done the work on my capstone to show that there's gaps in the literature related to rural mental health and Black men's mental health, right? So again, that positions me as the authoritative figure, but also I have experience and history and also lived experience, but also clinical experience to back up what I have been talking and saying. So again, that's how the DSW can really be beneficial to position you in different places that maybe the LCSW is limiting on, and it hinders where you're trying to go. And that's why I'm telling folks you have to think about, you might not know it all up front, but you have to have a kind of a semblance of where you're trying to go and what are you trying to build off of based upon the information that you've already done and completed. And will the DSW enhance it, or will the DSW is just another thing to add to the back of your name? Because if that's the case, there's no point in wasting money to do it, because as it stands right now, outside of scholarships and things of that nature, it's not a fully funded situation that you can do. You have to get scholarships, receive scholarships, take out student loans, or you pay out your pocket to order to do just that. And the prices vary based upon the institutions that have them. But if you are willing, go ahead and check out a few of them. Tulane, Kentucky, Morgan State has a new program. You got Alabama, and you got who else is out there? USC. I want to say one of the schools down in Texas has one too. You got, and yeah, so there's a couple of them out there, but that's the difference between PhD. Typically, PhDs, who most of the time are fully funded, which means that they'll give you a stipend to go to school. Because a lot of us, contrary to popular belief, what you see on social media sometimes, not a lot of people are pursuing PhDs or doctoral degrees. And so if you are looking to do research, if you're looking to prepare yourself to do research, create new interventions, create new literature based upon what you are studying, then PhD might be the way to go. And then you're preparing yourself to teach. You want to teach at the academic level, boom, you can do that with the PhD. Keep in mind, you can do that with the MSW post 2 years, LCSW, DSW as well. But again, primary for PhD, from what I've gathered and understood, is more research based and more research heavy, right? And then you go look at the different institutions who actually do the research that you're willing to do, or are they willing to accept what you're trying to bring into the fold in those PhD programs. And so you'll see more of the PhD programs, but they are rigorous, a little bit harder and tougher to get into. And also they should be aligning with your goals and efforts. And so I could see where I probably should have done PhD, or I could have, let me stop saying that. I could see where I should have done PhD because I was creating new knowledge, and due to the gaps in literature related to my topics, rural mental health, Black men's mental health, where I could have really, with the thing that I created, my capstone, I could have created the study already and had that research already readily available and built off of that. But it is what it is. I told you earlier, I couldn't commit to the 4 to 6, and I can still create that research now with the DSW. But again, the PhD piece, that's what is beneficial to that, and I could have done that and used that. That also could have catapulted me in an area of research. But I didn't want to primarily do research. That's the thing. Even though research is part of my work, I didn't want to be primarily a researcher, because I don't think that that's my number one skill set. And so again, if you are heavily involved or want to do that research, if that's something that intrigues you and you want to create that new knowledge off the break, then that's what it is. And so you'll have that period of time to do that. Of course, you take your courses first in the PhD program, then you get into your dissertation phase where you are actually doing your research and doing your studies and things like that, and then you have to then you got to pass your comps first before you do your dissertation phase, and then you do your dissertation phase, and then you do your research, do your studies, write that all out, write the dissertation up, have your dissertation committee, put it all together, present it in front of them, defend the dissertation, and then you are complete with their PhD. It is an actual rigorous process. Talk to anybody that has received their PhD. It is a very rigorous process. So you want to, possibly, chop it up with somebody who has done that. Now, for us in the DSW level, right, we do a capstone product that has capstone project that kind of combines everything together in one. For us at UK, it looks different for everybody else. And each programs, you should talk to those programs and ask them. But for us, we did a systematic literature review. We did a conceptual paper and a practical application paper. Systematic literature review takes a topic that we want to talk about and see what's out there, what's not out there, and looks at those different things. And we look at the best articles to support what we're trying to look at, and support in our topic and area. Then the conceptual paper looks at a concept that's already been created or done out there, and we do some literature reviewing on that, understanding what's the best practices, what's working, what's not working, and kind of critique that from that aspect. The practical application paper is where we either create new knowledge, we create a new intervention of knowledge, or we build off of existing knowledge to make it better based upon a topic and area of interest. And so that's where I kind of said in the last video where I was struggling a little bit because there were so many gaps. I was piecing things together, and it was a little bit of a challenging effort to put that practical application paper together because of the gaps in literature. But luckily, we are creating new literature out there, and folks are really putting that information out there. So I was able to use a lot of new recent grad literature of folks who are publishing stuff that was related to Black men's mental health and some of those different aspects. And so again, a shorter period of time, but built out through the semesters. Like we went summer, spring, fall. We started the capstone project the second summer of the second year and ran it all the way through the last spring. And then we presented our capstone for everybody to see, colleagues, friends, family. I didn't have a capstone board. I know some of my colleagues who did DSW had like a capstone board, such as like their dissertation team. I didn't have that. But I had mentors. I had a capstone mentor. I had my teachers who I identified as facilitators and things like that. So it's a little bit of a different beast in that aspect. I would say APA writing is still beneficial and still rigorous on both programs in the doctoral level. If you're fearful of writing an APA, you'll get up to speed very quickly in writing APA. And that's something that I struggled with most of my time in undergrad and graduate school, but I was able to become a better writer. And I think I'm a good APA writer at this point. As a result of the DSW program. So that's kind of the differences. I think I hit on the main points about, the differences in DSW versus PhD, why I did the DSW, why it made sense for me and my trajectory. If your career passion or trajectory looks a little bit like mine or similar to mine, then DSW might be for you. If you think you're going to want to create new knowledge or want to, create new research and knowledge based upon what you are addressing in your topic or area of interest, PhD might be for you. But please note that both of them are challenging and both of them are a sacrifice that you have to undergo in order to achieve it. And you also have to have a community with you in order that buys into the sacrifice that's going to help you out as well. I think my community I was blessed to have my community. I know I'm privileged in that aspect because I was surrounded by so many DSWs, PhDs, and family and friends who bought into what I was trying to do. And so they supported me in that manner. And I think that's one of the biggest driving factors for success. So if you can't find nobody, if you don't have a big support team, there are Facebook groups out there, different groups throughout. We got LinkedIn, that's a different DSW, you got a group on there as well. There are groups out there, digitally that you can also join that can also help support your journey as well. So I would check them out. But I'll stop there. If you got any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to drop a comment. Let me know if you need, got any questions. Feel free to drop a message if you got a specific question answered. Or if you say, okay, this was helpful, I need something else. I want to do a follow-up? Can you do a follow-up video to just this specific situation? We can do that as well. And so I went over my time. but we're good to go. So we should be fine. But yeah, like, share, subscribe to the podcast, to the G.Taylor Show. Let me know what you think about it. We're on the digital streaming platforms as well. Of course, with YouTube, road to 1,000 subscribers is here. And yeah, man, we should be good to go. Other than that, y'all have a great week. Take care, and we will talk soon. All right? Peace.